We're back now with Overtime with former Attorney General Mike Cox, running for governor as a Republican. Did ICE overreact in Minnesota?
To the fact that there was hundreds of protesters? No.
2 people dead.
Yeah, when you have that amount of conflict, there's going to be tragedies, unfortunately.
So that was just collateral damage?
No, of course not. I mean, I'm not going to let you frame the question that way. My wife was in ICE for 13 years. When I met her, she was undercover, and she encountered a lot of dangerous situations. Do members of police forces sometimes overreact? Yes. Does that make that we shouldn't have a police force, or that we should not attempt to get illegal felons off the street, illegal alien felons? In Livonia, the Livonia mayor shot off her mouth last week that we're not going to cooperate with ICE anymore. And they just picked up a guy a month before, an Israeli dude, who was a B&E man, and had felony drug offenses. And it's like, that doesn't help make Livonia safer? Of course it does.
So should they be wearing masks and the body cameras?
The body cameras, they already said they would do, and I think that makes sense. Ordinary street cops do.
Masks.
General.
Wait a minute. Masks.
Well, if they're going to be doxxed, yes.
General.
Yeah. I mean, if I were on the show, I'd have body cameras, and maybe I'd have some numbered ID, right?
General, speaking of Michigan's putrid economy.
Right. It is putrid.
What about Michigan Economic Development Corporation and the approach that has taken? How would you change that? I mean, that is a big, big issue in this governor's race, or should be.
It really is. I'm glad you asked. So think about Matt Ishbia, right? I met him in 2008. He was employee number 15 in his dad's company. Great Recession comes along. He figures out, I'm going to go online like Dan Gilbert. He now has 9,000 employees in a beautiful facility. No one could have predicted that, right? No one could have predicted what your grandfather did. No one could predict what Larry Ellison at Oracle, or the guys at NVIDIA, or Meta, or Google, the biggest companies in the world. No one can predict, and a governor can't predict that. I mean, that's ludicrous. Or some 30-year, I was a economic development guy in Calhoun County, and then I went to the city of Lansing. They don't have the ability. So it's, to me, Rick Snyder had the right idea, which is lower the burden on everyone, and then let the flowers identify themselves and the weeds will die off. That's, when I built my business, no one gave me money to pay the lease. No one gave me money for jobs. I had to figure it out. And most business works that way. We have 900,000 small businessmen and women. That's 99.6% of all the businesses in Michigan. And they provide the most growth. Throwing money to legacy companies, whether it be Buick or GM or Ford, isn't the way to go.
So do we need the MEDC at all?
Not in its current configuration. I mean, it's a failure. No one has confidence in it. If I'm a businessman or woman or a corporation, you pick the town. I know that the MEDC is viewed in Michigan as a failed and corrupt institution, and why do I want to deal with it?
One thing we've incentivized in Michigan recently is data centers. They get a specific tax break. They also have gotten some swift treatment from the Michigan Public Service Commission. Do you agree with that course of action? Should we be courting these facilities that don't have high jobs numbers but do bring new industry to Michigan?
Well, part of that, I hate the fact that we're willy-nilly. So I'm not, 2 years ago, the governor and the legislature, including Republicans, said we want to do this tax break. I'm not going to be the guy who says 2 years later, let's rip that tax break out. But what I am about is, number one, keep local control. I mean, people forget or don't know we have 70 data centers in Michigan right now. Yeah. And a lot of communities have welcomed them, and they've cut good deals. So I have 2 rules. Number one, if your community wants it, cut a deal. If your community doesn't, you get to keep local control. And the other piece is, if they want a piece of the pie, they have to build their own. I mean, they have to build their own energy generation.
Mr. Attorney General, if elected to be the Chief Executive Officer of this state, would you want the president to continue his tariff policy? Federal Reserve just came out with a report that said 90% of the costs are being borne by Americans.
Well, I haven't seen that, but I saw the day that the president was in. There was a pre-panel. Last time he was at the Detroit Economic Club, where a skeptical U of M researcher, economist, said, in fact, tariffs are starting to pay off for Michigan. So, Chuck, I can't really comment on the Federal Reserve. I just view the numbers as the right thing. And just on a personal level, I had 4 uncles and aunts who were at Ford UAW. My dad worked for Ford. Amongst my cousins and amongst my nephews and nieces, that's not the case. I have one brother-in-law who builds F-150 trucks, a UAW guy. And I go, when you travel overseas, you don't see F-150 trucks, which everyone in the world would want. But I can drive around my neighborhood and I can see Beamers, well, not in Livonia, but other people's neighborhoods. I can see Beamers and Mercedes and Hyundais. And there is a rigged rule, or there has been, and the president's just moving the needle on that.
But generally speaking, you think tariffs are a good way to be able to use as a negotiating tool to be able to do business and have a good economy? Or is that something that you feel it should be a last resort and not a first resort?
I favor governors and presidents who use all, especially if they're of my side, who use all the tools available to them. And that's what Trump's doing. And, you know, I intend to do the same thing as governor. I'm going to use every single power the governor has in order to fix education and fix our economy.
Do you want the president's endorsement?
Of course. I'd be a fool not to.
And then if you got the endorsement, would you have to change colors in order to run in a general election?
No. Look, Tim, I ran, I'm the guy who told a Republican Secretary of State, you can't issue driver's license to illegals anymore. A lot of the things the president talks about, I talked about as AG. You know, here's how I govern. I think of the people I grew up with in Redford in 950 square foot houses, and everyone was a working man or woman, and no one had a college degree in my neighborhood. That still shapes how I view the world.
So you need to
and that's who Trump wins with.
You need to get the UP. Who's your running mate going to be?
I have no idea.
Oh, yes.
I won't think of that until the day after the.
It's going to be
primary.
a woman, is it not?
Are you suggesting I run with my wife as lieutenant governor?
I don't think I said that. But
She's already turned the job down.
She has.
Yes.
Do you feel you're a stronger candidate now than you were in 2010 for governor? And
100%.
Why?
Because I've had, look, I spent, and people don't realize, I spent 13 years as a homicide prosecutor in Detroit. I ran all the homicides under Duggan. He promoted the one Republican in the office to run the most sensitive unit. And, but I'd never been in the private sector. And like there were times when I had $1 million loan out, had signed over everything, my pension, my house, everything. And I had to make payroll the 15th and 30th. And I remember one time Laura came to me, it was like Tuesday the 12th, and our payroll was like $77,000 and change. And we had $31,000 or $28,000 in our account. And it's like, what the hell are we going to do, right? And I had to figure it out. And those experiences just make you stronger, more resilient, and more creative over time.
Mr. Duggan, being in this race, is that helping or hurting you?
You know, look, I'm ready to take on Jocelyn Benson one-on-one. By him being in the race, if it's like every other independent race, he's going to be like a souffle. He's going to rise and he's going to fall. And that will help Republicans.
So you win with Mike Duggan sucking away Democratic votes.
I win, whether it's Mike Duggan, Jocelyn Benson and I, or whether it's Jocelyn Benson and I. Look, I beat one of the most resourceful Democrat politicians of the past 35 years. And I did it when he spent more money and when I didn't know boo about politics. And Jocelyn Benson is afraid of her own shadows, afraid to take any position that's different. Afraid, you know, she is so far removed from the average working person here in Michigan. Whether it's one-on-one or the three of us together, I don't really care, Tim.
Say hi to all our fans in the UP, okay?
I will.
All right.
All three of them.
Don't forget your boots.
On a good day.
On a good day.
Good to see you, Mr.
All right, thank
Mr.
you.
Attorney General.
All right, appreciate it.